Kristin Shaw with Airport Improvement Magazine, and I am here today with Wade Conlan from Hanson Professional Services. How are you,
Hey,
Wade?
Kristin. I'm great, Kristin. How are you doing?
Good. It's so nice to see you.
You too? Yeah, exactly, right?
You are in Florida, is that right?
Yes, just outside of Orlando.
And is that where Hanson is based?
Hanson is headquartered in Springfield, Missouri. And so we are one of the 20 plus offices that they have spread around the country.
Awesome. So tell me what you've been up to. I mean, the whole world has been different since March, obviously. Like, we don't have to go over that too much in detail. Everybody knows. But what have you been doing to adapt and adjust in your job?
Right. So, I run the commissioning and energy group for Hanson. And, commissioning is essentially trying to get the building systems operating as the owner really wants them to, as efficiently as they need to be. And we also do a lot of retro commissioning of buildings where there are existing buildings that may not be operating properly. And so we go in and try and troubleshoot and help optimize, let them save energy and other things. And so a lot of that responsibility is actually being out in buildings and being on the road. And the team that I lead is used to working remotely. So that remote part hasn't been is different, but it's the working in empty buildings or trying to figure out what requirements you have to follow to go into other buildings or on construction sites. And so from that standpoint, work-wise, I think we're pretty normal to a degree. But the biggest difference is the amount that we're being asked to consult on how to get buildings ready. Or how to, at first in March, it was how do we shut down our building or how do we unoccupy our building properly? And now it's okay, we're ready to reoccupy, or we're kind of occupied already, but what should we be doing to be safe? And you can see a lot of it right now in the news. Schools are looking to start or have started.
Right.
And so you see a lot of that is, okay, what do we need to do to our systems, our HVAC systems, air conditioning, heating, to try and make them safer to be in, right? And so that's been a lot of what I've been involved with recently. The biggest push there is an organization called ASHRAE. It's an engineering nonprofit that is really trying to advance the built environment for energy sustainability, indoor environmental quality type of aspects. And so they formed an epidemic task force to try and modify or adjust or create guidance for what building operators, what designers, what owners should be looking to do to mitigate the transmission of SARS-CoV-2, which creates COVID-19.
Right.
And it's been a lot of effort, but it's been interesting. I'm learning a lot, and then I also feel like I'm being able to help people quite a bit.
And that's a good feeling, right? I mean, everything is changing, has changed, will be changing even more, I'm sure. So you're kind of having to figure out things on the fly. What are you finding are some of the best practices that you're recommending now?
Right. There's a huge piece of this, which is a lot of the strategies that people are doing, the social distancing, the masks, the sanitation, the personal hygiene. Those are all key components that have to be done. We focus on the HVAC side because that's kind of our area, and so these are slightly different. So I don't want anyone to think, oh, I don't need to do those things. You have to do those, right? This is in addition to trying to help people, and so it's mitigation strategies or engineering controls, and there's a couple different buckets that you can look at, and one is ventilation or outdoor air. How much outdoor air am I bringing into the space? The other is filtration of my air system. So how much particulate am I removing? And then a third one is air cleaning. And that is trying to do something differently through technology to scrub the air. Those are the three call it strategies that you can use. And then they have to be applied to each of the different systems that you're applying them to, right? And so each specific HVAC system, one would work where another would not. Like take your home, for instance. There isn't any outside air that comes directly to the air conditioning unit, depending on your home, but most homes, single family homes, do not. So increasing your ventilation or your outdoor air is opening windows and doors. Whereas in an office building, that air is brought straight to, or an airport in the terminal or in the office spaces, that air is brought to an air handling unit, or it's pushed directly to the space. And so depending on how that's done, you would do, let's say, you would use different mitigation strategies to improve. But those are definitely the top three.
When you were talking about scrubbing the air, in my mind, I was thinking those little scrubbing bubbles of whatever that cleaner brand is. You remember?
I know, I can picture exactly what you're talking about. And that's why I hesitate to use the word scrubbing. It is removing particulate, or it is killing certain items. It's, as you noted, I'm here in Orlando. There's a theme park that has a restaurant that you can go to that is shaped like a ham, and the ham bone is in the middle up front. And so that's actually where the grease hood comes out, right? And so that's usually a lot of cooking odors, and they didn't want that to a degree. So you can actually put scrubbers to remove the grease and remove other particulate to cut the odor down. And in this case, you're doing that for virus as opposed to food odors. And so, yeah, but it's like that, but yeah, that's why I hesitated on that word.
Is this new technology that we're talking about? The way air is filtered. Obviously, the air filter's been around for a long time. Different kinds of air filters, different allergens are filtered out, different toxins are filtered out. Is there new technology being developed that is going to help going forward to mitigate some of these problems that we're having right now?
I think there will be. So in the filtration world, a new word that everyone's been using, or acronym, is MERV, MERV, right? And that's essentially efficiency rating for a filter. And that's just a method of test that you apply to figure out how much dust or dirt that a filter could stop. And so in the filter realm, other than them creating what we'll call higher efficiency filters at a lower pressure drop. So like you think about it, if you think about, and I love using different analogies, but like a flour sifter, and sometimes they have bigger holes or smaller holes.
Right.
Well, the one with the smaller holes takes more work for you to get the flour through. Well, very much just like an air filter, the higher the efficiency, it takes more fan energy. It's pressure drop to get through. And so they're trying, their gains are creating higher efficiency filters, and ASHRAE is recommending MERV 13 or 14 at a lower pressure drop so that you're not getting the energy penalty. As far as the air cleaning devices, that's where the emerging technologies are really coming into play. UVC is not a new technology, right? Ultraviolet light isn't new. UVC became very big during the tuberculosis timeframe. And so it can be used. And so that, as ASHRAE is concerned and CDC is concerned, that's a proven technology. There's a lot of others that are out there that are coming in, and that line starts to become what you call peer-reviewed papers or applications or research where it applies to the situation you're using it, right? And so I take like an airplane. If I did an analysis of an airplane that typically has about 20 air changes per hour and uses HEPA filtration, that's much different than an office space that's a lot more volume, that typically cooling load may only get 6 air changes an hour and has MERV 8 filters. And so if I apply a air cleaning technology to one location, how do I correlate that to the other location? And so it depends on where their research is. So one of the ones is bipolar ionization. They're a pretty big technology right now. Some of the manufacturers do have studies against SARS-CoV-2. And when you look at those studies, they do show that it kills it. But it's looking at how it was studied, and then how do you apply that to your office space or your airport terminal. Dry hydrogen peroxide is another one. It's been used for quite a bit.
Never heard that.
And so yeah, it's it's for the longest time in like laboratories and stuff, they would use what's known as vaporized hydrogen peroxide. They use it in hospitals as well. And it's purely to disinfect. You can't go in. It's almost like when you fumigate a house, they put the big tent in and you're not allowed in. Well, vaporized hydrogen peroxide is at a much higher dose. The dry hydrogen peroxide is at a level that it's below the EPA levels that you're allowed, that you can breathe in. And it attacks the particulate and changes their chemical compound. And they've been used in casinos to remove smoke odor. They've been used in a lot of call it manufacturing and food plants. And so then it becomes, okay, well, they're occupied spaces, but so how does that correlate to, like you said, an airport terminal? And all airport terminals are different. You have some that are really big volume, you have some that are smaller, and those kind of things. So that's where the technology is going to continue to kind of pick up. And it'll be great, because if people are installing those now for their facility for this, it should help them keep a cleaner facility or a safer facility moving forward. Unfortunately, every virus is different though.
Yeah, it's very promising though. I think this will definitely birth some new technologies and some new science to figure out how to battle some of these things, because burns are all around all the time. And I know airports work really hard to keep their surfaces clean. And when you're talking about airport seating, they're using materials that are designed to be cleaned with harsh chemicals over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
So are more airports starting to pick up on this kind of technology? Or is it more like they're doing upgrades?
It's a combination thereof, right? And so a lot of this, like I said, depending on your HVAC system, and it depends on what you can do. And so I'll just mix some different things. So some airport terminals are done through what's known as displacement ventilation. So the air is introduced low, it kind of comes across and goes up, and it's not really meant to mix. The air in office buildings are typically that you see is that it's the overhead diffuser where the cold air comes out, it spreads around, but then you've got the grills that are the return air. So it's expecting the space to be considered well mixed. Well, for displacement ventilation, upper room UV that you can see doesn't work, because the upper room UV is expecting the air to move across it, kind of like a side stream filter to clean it as you're going. And so with displacement, you couldn't use that technology there. Whereas in an office space, you kind of want a little bit more high volume, so you might not use it in that application either. So you start to look at those different technologies. So a lot of it tends to be very specific to their location. But airports are definitely looking at ways to improve. And step one, make sure that you're bringing in the right amount of outdoor ventilation. Do you meet at least code, right? You're bringing in the minimum, right? And unfortunately for everyone, they're lower occupied right now, which means you're actually getting the increase in ventilation by having less people, but we want it to get back to the normal amount. The other is make sure that you have the right amount of filtration, right? And make sure that it's installed very well. So it's those kind of things they can do as a bare minimum. Sealing around the filter frames, it's one of those things. I kind of equate that to if you have if it's dark out at night and you've got a bathroom and you've got the bathroom and you forgot that you left the bathroom light on, but the door is shut and you can see the light coming around the door frame. Well, air is going across. If you picture the door as the filter, air is going to go where the door is not for as much as possible. And I think it's a MERV 15, a very high filter with a 1 centimeter gap down the side. It turns it into like a MERV 8 filter, because so much air gets by, so many things can get by. And so at a minimum, I know most airports, we've been talking to a lot of different hospitals, schools, everything. So airports are at least doing that at a minimum, and most of them are trying to figure out what other types of air cleaning they can do for their facility.
Are you finding that airports, especially I know you work with lots of different industries, but are airports finding ways to shift budget to accommodate some of these new types of technologies?
I've had less exposure to that side of things. Right now, I've been doing more of the consulting of what could we do, and knowing that I would have to say that they would have to get creative financially, because you're mid-budget, mid-budget year,
Right.
and you're talking about a big capital expenditure. Um, and on top of it, a lot of the things I'm saying right now is going to increase the actual potential energy costs. So it's not spend capital and save energy, like we did, with the retro commissioning. And so they are having to get creative. And so but I haven't gotten into the details on that side.
But with all of your experience, I mean, obviously there's competitors probably doing similar things, maybe not exactly the same thing, but what makes Hanson uniquely qualified to give this kind of advice and help people through planning of air filtration and that kind of thing?
There's definitely others that are doing this work. I think the biggest thing is, I look at it from our standpoint of our technical expertise in the different areas. So we're not trying to go out and get in and work on airports and not having worked on airports before. And then so it becomes the technical expertise that we have in this area. So when ASHRAE's Epidemic Task Force was formed, it was born out of the Environmental Health Committee that I was actually chair of. So I had to form this committee, and then fortunately, a gentleman, Dr. Bill Bonfleth, agreed to chair it, and I eventually said, okay, I'm going to help you. And so I've been in the mix of this in terms of the science and the number of people that are sharing the studies and research and intel. Many times on phone calls, I feel like I'm the only one that doesn't have doctor in front of my name. But medical doctors, Harvard, CDC, NIOSH, national laboratories around. So a lot of individuals that are bringing a different aspect of the HVAC from their research side, and I'm getting it firsthand and then helping create that guidance and generate that guidance. So I think we've got a little bit more expertise than others, just in terms of where it's at and where it's headed. I think the other thing is just the way that we handle ourselves or do our business and work with clients. We are trying to do our CEO is always trying to tells you to figure out how you can make your client promotable, and how you can make their day easier. And so that's the mindset that we have. So you take the technical expertise and then the way that we work with individuals and become a trusted advisor, a partner. I think it's been successful for us. And I think like I started out with, I feel like I'm helping people, not just the people that are trying to solve these issues, but also the people that are going to be in those spaces. And it comes down to their comfort to enter an airport or get on an airplane or travel again.
Yeah, and that's going to take some work and some time, but it sounds like you're on the right track to help figure out some of those things. And it's all about the air that we're breathing and how we're keeping that virus at bay. So
exactly,
work on that. And we
right.
appreciate your time and telling us about that today.
I appreciate that. And just to reiterate, we were talking HVAC things. That does not eliminate all the other guidance that we've been giving for masks and cleanliness and hygiene. And so
to take all of it together to really make it work.
Exactly. So
thanks, Wade. I appreciate you today.
Thanks for having me. Stay safe.
You too.